Hello, procrastinators, and welcome to the Nerd³ podcast.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here again. I have no idea how long it's been since our last podcast.
6 years.
It has, yeah. Part of that is because we've been busy working on making our own games and stuff, and part of that is because, for the most part, I spent like a month going, I've got nothing to talk about in the next podcast. And then suddenly a whole load of stuff happened in the last few weeks, and suddenly we've got enough for a podcast. So it happened when it was ready.
We don't rush this. This is quality podcasting.
This is top of the line podcasting.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right, what's first on our thing? Is it the Apple Watch? Are we going to talk about the Apple Watch?
There's an Apple Watch?
Well, that came out today when we're recording this, didn't it? I think so.
I have no idea. It's gaming news is what's next. So
they could make games on it.
Let's not talk about Apple because they've got nothing to do with this really. So the biggest thing sort of for Lego fans like us in gaming is Lego Dimensions.
Yes. Which is the Skylanders and Disney Infinity version of Lego, where you build little Lego sets, stick them on the base, and then, oh my god, they're in your video games!
Yeah, I have very mixed opinions on this. Like, part of me feels if you're going to spend a large amount of money on buying basically a figure to just sit there, is stupid. And at least if it's Lego, it's something.
Yeah. That's the value of Lego over something like Amiibos. Is that Amiibo is a little plastic Lego piece, Mario piece of shit, but the Lego stuff is Lego you can take apart and build into something else because it's proper Lego or minifigures you can put in your sets, and it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I do think there's something fun about having Lego in games that you own yourself.
Yeah,
like okay, so I'm a huge fan of the Lego Movie. The Lego Movie computer game is awful, absolutely awful. There are only two things I like in that game. One is the animations of Unikitty.
Yeah.
And the second one that I really like is the fact that I own a lot of the Lego Movie stuff, because I actually really liked all of their sort of garbage truck, which turns into a monster jumping robot, and ice cream van that turns into
There are videos
things.
on this very channel showing off most of the Lego Movie stuff.
And because...
Spaceship. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because I love all of that, being able to play that in the game was really the best part of that game, was being able to go around in an ice cream truck going, I own this, it's sitting on my desk as I play with it.
Yes.
Because the rest of the game was truly dire. So part of me is excited because it's like, oh yes, I really like that. And I kind of like their mashup in there's just something really beautiful in that trailer with sort of the Eye of Sauron overlooking sort of New York just felt right. So all of that seemed really interesting. Then you looked at the pricing.
Yep. See, I will point this out, right? So, for me, I don't really enjoy Lego games. I like the earlier Lego games when they were sort of levels, and now they're going a bit open worldy. I don't think it works because I don't like the aesthetic of real world and then the stuff you interact with is Lego, because it looks like it's not Lego world. It's like they've just glued some Lego into stuff.
Oh, I agree with this a lot.
That's the best bit about the Lego Movie game, was it all was made out of Lego, and it proved it could work. But they didn't really stick with it for very long. But coming from the point of view of someone who currently behind him is an entire Lego town. On the shelves in front of him is the 300 odd quid helicarrier made entirely of Lego. There's shelves, there's like 6 or 7 shelves just filled with Lego. I think that I won't be buying this because it's just so expensive. It's ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, I think as you sort of pointed, because for a while I was looking at it when I was just looking at the figures and didn't know the price point. I was thinking there actually might be a few sets that I'm interested, even if I didn't go for the giant base.
Yeah.
And then I think
that's why I really had the interest was. Yeah, because Lego games, I don't think it's going to be a superb game, but being able to, because some sets you get, it's really hard to find like a Batman unless you buy an expensive a whole huge expensive set. But being able to buy just a Batman with a little figure,
the new Lego movie set has a cheap Batman in.
It does, but I think I got him in the... I got him in Spaceship, I think. Was he in Spaceship? Or he was in the big police...
No, he was in the police carrier,
He was in the police carrier, yeah, okay. There we go. It was in one of them. I know I now have a Batman, but that was a nice example of, if you want to get a thing, if you want to get a Marty McFly, the cheapest way to get Marty McFly should be to just buy the little Marty McFly set.
This is what I was thinking. Because I was assuming that that very tiny mini build and the which frankly is the size of the Lego free mini builds that they give out every month.
Yeah.
And the figure, I was assuming they were going to overprice at say like £10.
Yeah.
And I was thinking at overpriced £10, I might be tempted into a few of them.
Yeah.
But that's not the price they're at, is it? I believe it's something like...
they're £15.
Yeah.
So it's £15 for a minifigure and a tiny build. But the Back to the Future one, which is the minifigure, the tiny build, and the little hoverboard, yeah, that's a £30 one.
Yeah, because it's a whole level in the game.
The actual full-size DeLorean with Marty McFly minifigure, this is the full, big, like, rare, hard-to-find one, was £30. So it's the same, having this little tiny chibi DeLorean and the same Marty McFly figure and just a little hoverboard, same price as the big DeLorean. So, from someone who, likes Lego, that's just a much more appealing option. Yeah, you get DLC for the game in it, but separate that off. This is why I don't like this. If I wanted the game, I'd get a thing. If I just want the figures, just sell me the figures. It's this combination that just makes it really unwieldy for me.
Yeah,
they've brought this to my house. They've gone to my house and gone, this is the Lego one, and I still don't get it. That's the thing, because the game has to rock. Like, I've never heard any, like, people who collect the amiibos and that sort of thing, and all these Skyland stuff, I've never heard them go, oh yeah, the game's brilliant. I mean, because the amiibo is slightly different. That's like little bonus things, isn't it? I think.
I have no idea.
For stuff like Smash Bros. It's like, but they do it differently. Like, because the base of the amiibo is different.
I would have to own a Nintendo system to care.
Yeah. Well, I've been getting a lot of joy at the moment out of my 3DS. I've been playing Gunman Clive and Paul Blocks, which is a puzzle game that is one of my favourite ever puzzle games now. There's a lot of, like, I've been playing through the little stuff on the store, and there's so many good puzzle games, because we all know that the 3DS and the DS work best for puzzle games, because it's the two screens, you can do clever stuff with it. But it's a real solid game. I can't remember what I was saying, because now I'm just thinking about how to solve the Lego.
We were talking about Lego being crap, and they came to your house with everything.
Yeah, because it's so expensive. And I literally, each of those houses behind me are £100 sort of quid and stuff, but that's like 4 days of building, and then I have a beautiful little house, and that's good. But, the £100 is for the game and the thing. Because to get the game in the start pack, which is the 3 figures, 2 of which I already have, and that little Batmobile and the little Stargate.
Yeah.
So the game by itself will say that's 50 quid if you're buying it full price, 40, 50 quid. That means it's £50 for that little Stargate and the things, because the little base stuff is really expensive.
Yeah.
Because no, the amiibos, what I was saying is the amiibos, I think they actually store stuff on the actual chip, so you can only use an amiibo on one game. Otherwise it gets confused or something. I can't remember, but I remember reading something about that. Like, if you can't use your amiibo on more than one game at a time, and you have to wipe it or something.
Oh.
I don't know. But Nintendo are just being massive dicks, because they released 5. They released 5, and because people go nuts and want to collect everything, it's just irritating. The amount of just shit that Nintendo are forcing down people's throats with these.
But at least when Nintendo are doing it, they have built the amiibo system into your console, rather than it being a £90 up front just to be able to buy the overpriced expansions. Yeah,
I mean, it's not it's expensive from the point of Lego, but this is actually what these Skylanders and things, this is the price of them. It's the same sort of price as the Infinity and the Skylanders and the Amiibos and stuff like that. This is the price points that they're at. It's just that, unlike Skylanders, Amiibo, and Disney Infinity, these figures exist elsewhere for much cheaper. So it feels to me like more of a kind of a rip-off. And it's not like they're bringing anything new to the table, really. And I don't like the main 3 characters. This is the thing that really bugged me, is you've got Batman, Wild Style from the Lego movie, and Gandalf or Dumbledore. I think it was Gandalf.
It was Gandalf, yeah.
Yeah, but Batman and Wild Style are 2 of the main characters from the Lego movie. They're a couple. Yeah. Sort of, until you get to the end of the Lego movie. Sort of.
Spoilers! Don't spoil the movie.
I know, but that's not ever going to come up in the game. But it's... So it feels like it's Lego movie and Gandalf. It's sort of... It's a weird combination of characters to have at the start.
I thought that too.
And by Wild Style and not Emmett. If this was Emmett, I'd be like, ooh, Emmett. But
I think that's because they want to sell Emmett separately. I think one of the reasons it's also they wanted superheroes, and I think they're also doing a Marvel Avengers Lego games this year as well. So
yeah. I mean, there's Telltale just announced they're doing a Marvel game.
They have. I was going to mention that later, but sure, why not?
And Disney Infinity, the second one was all Marvel stuff. So basically, Marvel or whores.
Yeah, well, they're Disney now, aren't they? So
yeah, that explains everything.
Soon you will find that Star Wars reaches that same level, I'm sure. When you have Star Wars Infinity, and which incidentally already exists, but I'm sure that
I bought my first Star Wars Lego set.
Ah, did you?
I did. It was... I don't know who they are. They're like little blue stormtroopers.
Senate guards.
Why not? And there's like loads of them. You get like 4 or 5 of them in this pack. But what was in there is you get this... It's a little gun. Because you know you get the little guns. You pick the thing and the little stud flies out 50,000 miles because they're now ridiculously powerful. It's one that you rotate, and as you rotate it fires out 6. It's like a little like a little Gatling gun made of Lego. And the only reason I picked it up was it was a little Gatling gun made of Lego. So I thought it was really cute.
All the Bionicles have those.
Yeah, they have that
gun
sort of
things.
thing. Yeah,
it's very cool. You lose them at no end, and they give you. So for your Gatling gun of 6, I think they give you 12 studs.
Yeah,
and they get lost quickly.
They do. I mean, because so going back to Lego, if they actually release a minifigure that I would like with a nice little build. Like, if I can get it for cheap, like, because everywhere you see Skylanders stuff really cheap, so maybe when this cheapens off as a game, maybe it'll lose the value and then it'll become actually a really cheap way of buying Lego. That is my hope for Lego Dimensions right now, is that it'll drop in price like Infinity, because everywhere I see Infinity like 50% off and Skylanders 50% off, I kind of really like, and they're going, that's going to be a cheap way to buy Lego. If it halves its price, then it will actually be... That'll be an okay price, because it is sort of like a minifigure is what, $250 for the blind bags. I do collect the blind bags because they're fun. Actually, the shop quite near me actually sells the blind bags out of the bags. You just buy the minifigures. So I buy them until I get a double, and then I go and buy just the ones that I need left to finish the set.
In fairness,
Simpsons ones are coming out soon. Oh my god! I've got the new Quickie Mart as well in Lego. I've got the Quickie Mart. That's sitting right there. So I have a Quickie Mart. I'm so excited.
I was going to say, I go to the Lego store in one of the Lego stores in London, and I assume there's more than one, but I only go to one. But when I've gone there before, they've if it's not too busy, the people, the staff there will just say, "Who are you looking for?" And you're like, "Oh, I particularly want this person." They'll just feel through the bags and go, "Oh yeah, that's the one."
They fondle for you, yeah. So that's why I like the shop I go to, because they actually have them just out. They're like, do you want the shit that comes with it? I do not care. I've got my little minifigure and I put him on my stand. I've actually built a small stand for them out of Lego the other day. I was so chuffed. I like Lego, but I don't really care for the Disney thing. Unless the game rocks, sorry. If the Lego Dimension games rocks, then maybe it'll be a thing that I go for, but it's going to have to be really good. I
think the problem is that I can't see it being anything other than a Lego game, and if that isn't something that interests you...
You see, it's got a bigger problem. They have a bigger problem, is that I haven't played a lot of the Lego games. I'm sort of currently playing through, like, Lego Harry Potter. I haven't played the second Lego Harry Potter. I've only played bits of the first Star Wars, which is, like, one of my favourites. I've not played Indiana Jones. The cheapest way of buying Lego Dimensions is to just buy the old Lego games for £2 on Steam or whatever they are at the moment.
Yeah, this is my thought, because I regularly pick them up when they're sort of at least a third off or so. So I normally pick them up for £20 a game or so.
And one of the real joys of the Lego games is unlocking seemingly thousands of characters per game.
Yeah,
and if Dimensions restricts it to just being a few, it's going to be like, it's going to limit itself. It feels really limiting as a Lego game. Because, I don't know. I mean, like the Marvel one, which I didn't really like the open world ones. I didn't really like the Batman one or the Marvel one. So
I loved Lego Batman too, because I love Gothic architecture, which almost doesn't exist. Like, I hate... so, much as I love the Batman Arkham series, their Gotham isn't my Gotham. Like, for me, Gotham should be giant statues of men coming out of the ground, or women. Like, but
I think Tim Burton agreed with you in his movies. But,
exactly, yeah. I want as many people and gargoyles everywhere. And the Lego did it, but with Lego minifigures in the architecture.
Yeah.
And
that's what I want
that
from a
was
Lego game.
beautiful.
I want it to all look Lego.
And I loved it sort of when you went into the underground, if you wanted to use the train, like there was just a giant manhole cover over the top of a Lego person's head holding it up, which would come out of the ground to open up the stairs for people to walk down. Just all of that, and the roller coaster being held up and attacked by Lego creatures was just beautiful. It was, that is the best Batman. That was the closest we've got to the Gotham that I want, the Gotham I deserve. And it was from a Lego game rather than someone taking it realistically.
But yeah, see, the open world thing, I like it, like, because the first one we all played because it was the first one was Lego Star Wars, and that was amazing. And every game that's come out since then has been Lego Star Wars.
That's kind of true.
Apart from the open ones, but the open world just never is really that fun to get around.
Well, I did really like the first Lego Harry Potter. I think that's probably one of my favorites.
I'm currently playing that. I'm enjoying that at the moment.
I don't like the second one very much because it falls very much into the same trap that you were just talking about, where it's like it felt so much like none of the game was made out of Lego.
Yeah.
And you're just there going...
I've sort of got those vibes from the first one a little. There's quite a lot of it.
It gets stepped up a lot more in the second.
See, I just want them to build everything out of Lego.
But also, the first 4 books of Harry Potter are so much better than...
That is true.
Book 5 is definitely weak.
Yeah.
Book 6 is okay. And maybe Book 7 might make a good game.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, that's the thing. Lego Dimensions, we'll summarise, so we can move on, because we've been talking about Lego for 20 minutes. Lego Dimensions is too expensive for me, a man that owns a Lego town.
But, definitely an improvement. Like, I would rather have Lego Dimensions than Disney Infinity.
Oh, absolutely,
but I'm probably in a price point where I can live without both.
Yeah. That's
I agree with
the level
that.
it's at.
Okay.
Good. Done.
So,
Lego
do you want to talk about
Dimensions.
something you enjoy then? Let's lighten the mood. Mad Max has had some interesting trailers out recently.
Yeah, the Mad Max game, which isn't a movie tie-in, but now actually is because the movie's coming out around the same time of it, but it's actually a completely different thing. They were like, we're making a Mad Max game. There's no movie coming out. We're making Mad Max movie. What? They're already making a game. They're not tied together. And then they're here now. Wasn't there a kerfuffle about he wasn't going to be Australian? There was like a big kerfuffle that he wasn't going to be an Australian.
I know nothing about Mad Max other than the fact that when I watch things with post-apocalyptic sort of black leather, people go, oh, it's a Mad Max ripoff, and I go, oh, okay. So I know what a Mad Max ripoff should look like, but I know nothing about Mad Max itself.
Mad Max is post-apocalyptic wasteland, and it's lots of cars, and it's kind of weird.
It's the Red Faction guerrilla bad guys, right?
Yes, it's got the red... They weren't the bad guys at the end, spoilers. I finally finished that fucking game. You find that out tomorrow.
I did know. I did know that was the case. Yeah. But
I just had a look at the Mad Max Wikipedia page, and they're called Marauders, so it is literally the Red Faction guerrilla bad guys. They may have been named after them in that way. But yeah, so it's more of a car racy, blowy uppy sort of vehicular combat sort of thing.
Well, the customization on your vehicle does look like an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's being made by Avalanche, who make Just Cause.
Yes.
And Mad Max and Just Cause come out like 2 months between each other.
Which is possibly the worst thing about them, because they probably were both going to be great open world games worthy of more than 2 months of your time.
Yeah. I mean, an Avalanche game is constantly go back toable, which is the accurate term. You can constantly go back to any of the Just Causes. I still have fun in Just Cause 1. But, I don't know. They feel like the opposite game. Like, Mad Max and Just Cause 3 are the opposite to each other. They're not the... They're just yin and yang. Because you've got Mad Max, which is the slightly more gritty survival, and then you've got Parachute Farting Infinite, C4, Just Cause 3, Ricos Rodriguez. And as much as they look like the same, they built 2 very standard open world games, and then just sort of like extracted all the jollity from both. And what was left, they turned into Mad Max, and what was taken out, they turned into Just Cause. And I like that.
Okay.
I think they're going to be 2 really cool games, especially like the Mad Max is coming out a little bit sooner, so we'll have a play with that first. But it's like
I think that's good
desert.
because I think that if Mad Max came out afterwards, there's no chance it would get the any noise.
Well, I mean, it does. I think a lot of people because it seems to have sort of like survival stuff built into it. So there's a few references of you got to get food and you got to craft things, and we don't really see that in AAA very much, outside of terrifying Japanese RPGs that I don't understand.
From the trailer I saw, it seemed like they're working a lot on you upgrade the world and you have to work out who's going to be your friends and who you're just going to kill and loot the body of. And
watching that trailer, especially, I love gameplay overview trailers, guys. Like Red Dead's ones were great, GTA's ones are great, and this one was great. I love when you just go, these are the bits that you'll be doing in the game. I will probably get your game if you do those sort of things.
Oh yes, definitely
CGI
better than
bullshit. No, go away. Don't care. Don't care.
As a quick tangent, we can come back to Mad Max if you want, but the Star Wars one where it was all over the top action and everyone just went, we don't care. Yeah. Show us some actual gameplay.
Well, we knew it wasn't going to be actual gameplay.
Yeah, I kind of loved that because sort of afterwards they kind of said, what, people have grown cynical and oh no, we've got to tell them all that what they're saying isn't going to be true. There was a particularly nice quote that one of the people from DICE was talking about on a Reddit account, where they said, please don't make me break what I can and cannot say. But if you think there's anything we're not including in the game to save it for DLC, I can tell you, you're 100% wrong. In the project, I've never heard anyone say, let's not do this for launch, we can do it as a DLC instead. Ever. Which apparently means he hasn't watched the trailer where at the end it says, if you pre-order now, you get the Battle of Jabin. And also, it's the DLC, pre-order DLC, is the new Episode 7 level.
Yes.
Which seems stupid to me. Surely you include that one and remove something like Hoth that we actually care about.
Now, here's the weird thing. Pre-ordering doesn't actually get you that level. It just gets you that level earlier than everyone else, because everyone's getting that level.
Oh, okay.
Because they're going to hold that one back to maximize the launch. So they are literally just holding that back. So they go, hey, look. So it is from the base game. It's not even pre-order. It's just access this a little earlier. That's just for movie hype, the reason they're holding that back.
But that is just stupid.
They said, there's 4 planets or something? The game is set across 4 planets. There's me going, oh, yeah, because Star Wars isn't a rich fucking universe where you could go to really obscure weird planets and make fantastic, interesting levels. It's only the original movies.
Yeah.
There's no awesome droid stuff and awesome droid stuff. Being a droidica was my favourite thing. Being a droidica made up for Jar Jar Binks.
Droidicas and clones was my favourite battle for that. They might not necessarily be the best for storytelling, but they definitely felt like a good Battlefront game.
Well, of course, because a good Battlefront game is an entire war happening.
Exactly.
It's not a tiny skirmish. It is expendable people being expended. And it's you knowing you're expendable and not giving a shit because you're a clone or a droid and they'll just rebuild or make more of you. It's that sort of thing. And because the old games were 64 players, this one is now 40 players. There's no space stuff in this new one. The vehicles are all... So the AT-AT is a fucking on rails bit where it just walks and you can get in it and
that's
shoot.
Stupid.
Like, the best thing ever was coming out of a base, being like, I'm going to do everything, and there's just an AT-AT, and you're like, shit the bed, shit the bed, shit the bed. Like, the single player has no instant action or anything like that. It's like these set missions with some NPCs, and that's like the only time you get bots, apparently. Yeah. So there's no real interest I have in it. Like,
no going into space.
No going into space, no space battles at all. I mean, there are going to be Millennium Falcon battles, and the Millennium Falcon versus TIE Fighters, and all that sort of shit, and X-Wings, and all them are in there.
But it's not in space!
Above the ground. Yeah, it's all above the ground.
I loved being a fighter and flying over and then flying into the enemy base and then trying to blow it up from the inside.
Yeah, well,
that was
somebody
the
else was
best
outside
thing
bombing
about
the
that.
outside.
Exactly. That was the best part of that game. And
yeah. Didn't one of the PSP ones let you do both? You would have a ground battle and also could fly up and do a space battle at the same time on one of the PSP ones.
I never played the PSP ones.
The PSP ones are pretty good, actually. One of them, I think, had that. And so, yeah, it feels like it's another... EA are doing SimCity again. They've taken all the shit out that made it good and upped the graphics. which is great because in like 2 years' time we can get an indie Star Wars Battlefront. It's going to be fucking amazing and support mods. It'll be brilliant. I very much look forward to that one. But yeah,
Battlefront Skylines.
Yeah, that's going to be.
That's what you're waiting for.
That's what I'm waiting for. That's going to be incredible. But until
I hope you're right.
Skylines, yeah, until Battlefront, like it's just the whole point is it's supposed to be a huge fight with loads of NPCs, like because the PC version had the XL mode, which I think was like 128 player one with 128 bots or thing, possibly even 128 on each side. It was mayhem. The amount of bots that were on screen at the time was mayhem, and it felt like a huge battle. You can only do it on like Hoth and another one of the levels, the one with Count Dooku. I can't remember the name. Geonosis, possibly.
Geonosis is right. Yep.
Hey, get me. But I only ever did it on Hoth because Hoth was the best level. And it just felt like there was hundreds of people going on. There was loads of AT-ATs and shit flying around. It felt like a huge battle. The one they showed off with all the trees and all that shit felt really close. Like you've got no real line of sight on it being a huge battle. And 20 versus 20. I mean, because you've got to take some of those out because there'll be 4-on-4 in the vehicles, if you have 3 vehicles and then the one walker on each team or whatever. So that's 4 gone. So it's now just a 16 versus 16 battle. That's not a battle, that's just a fucking tiny skirmish. It feels.
And how many of those
weird.
are Ewoks, you know?
Yeah.
Can they really be counted as actual people?
Well, yeah, I hope. I have those Ewoks and stuff. I want there to be the third people. I like having the third people. But not having a galactic conquest. Oh, they can't have galactic conquest, they only have 4 fucking planets. That's solar system conquest, if anything. But not having galactic conquest, not having any instant action or anything like that. It just all the stuff that I love, they've just taken out and gone, this is modern. And it's not even drop in, drop out play anymore. Because the great thing about old multiplayer was you played it and you got better as that one fucking mission went on, and then at the end everyone reset for the next stage. But in this one they've got levels and unlocks and all that bullshit that just puts me off. Better players have better equipment. It's the worst thing. This is what I liked about Titanfall, because they went, this is a gun that locks onto people. We're giving you this at the start, because now you don't need to have the skill, and you can fuck over these people with the better ones. And I like that that was the only time I've ever enjoyed a sort of leveling up sort of game. I mean, even GTA to an extent. I don't really play the online on GTA 5, because I just sort of dick around and make my own levels. I don't just go around and level up. I've leveled up mostly by accident in GTA 5, because I don't like leveling up and then locking stuff. I mean, one of the best things they did was they just gave everyone a rocket launcher, or lock-on rocket launcher in GTA 5. So now if someone's bombing around with a jet, you can fuck them up. Everyone can fuck them up. It's a great feeling. But I just don't like...
Mutually assured fucking up.
Yeah, that's great. But I really don't like having to... the reason I don't like it is because I just don't like investing that much time in a game anymore. It's because I'm old. It's because I'm older. Like, if I know some of you may be going, but I want a game that lasts 1 million hours. I did too when I was 12 and I could only afford 1 game a month. I wanted to play. That's why my love of open world game comes from. But like, I'd much rather be making my own fun than just playing the same multiplayer battles over and over and over again. Because you lose that. You definitely lose something. Like the Battlefield Hardline, the beta or whatever it was great because then I knew I didn't want to play the full game. I didn't want to bother with it because it's just the same thing and it's leveling up and it's unlocks and you like a better gun and you want this and I don't want to put that effort in. I don't want to put effort. I shouldn't have to put effort in to have fun. The effort should be a reward. The reward shouldn't be now you have a slightly better gun, but everybody around you's now got a slightly better gun, so nothing has changed. I want the actual game itself to be fun, and leveling systems tend to screw you over for that sort of thing.
Okay. Did you want to talk about anything about Star Wars in general? Because there were new trailers and stuff.
Movie looks good. I'm not the big... As you know, I don't really give much of a shit about Star Wars.
Yeah. I do generally give a shit about Star Wars. I have to say, this trailer felt more like something I could watch, whereas the first one, I just rolled my eyes and went, oh crap, it's J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, J.J. Abrams did make 2 really good Star Wars films. Unfortunately, he gave them the wrong title.
So I was a little bit...
I'm kidding. The second one was awful, even for a Star Wars.
I was going to say that too, yeah.
The first one was a pretty alright Star Wars movie. But yeah, you need that... Oh, God, I'm so glad he's not making Star Trek anymore. You need that... It had that level of fan, but it also had that level of we're doing new stuff. That trailer made it felt like time had passed. It felt like we're definitely in a new world, and it sort of needed that. It needed to set its place, and it went, look, this is... Vader's mask's fucked up. Look, there's Luke Skywalker. Look, there's R2-D2. Han's really old. We've set our place in this world now. This movie's here, and I sort of needed that.
Keeping CGIing Harrison Ford back to being young, I think, would have been even beyond their budget. Yeah, I still don't like the new Stormtroopers. And
They're
it was
smiling.
more...
They're smiling. It bugs me. They all have a happy face.
See, the thing that bugs me is that because they've slimlined everything, now the heads just look like bubble heads. Because the heads don't actually... If you look at the old Stormtrooper heads, like, they're widest around the mouth, and then they dip back in again at the bottom.
Yeah.
And these new ones don't, and they've got a thinner chest and a thinner backpack, which just makes them feel like bubble heads. And I also felt that during their... sort of, let's introduce the Stormtroopers, and then they didn't play the Imperial theme.
Yeah.
I thought, what the fuck are you doing?
Well,
this is the only set of bad guys who have a set of a music theme that is so purely them, and you decided to play the Celebration theme. What the hell?
Well, the old Stormtroopers had that frowny face. Because they had the sunglasses, and they had just a face that it went down. It was like the upside down triangle. It just had that line that went down. And then the new ones, they've connected that to the glasses, so it just looks like it's smiling. They look kind of a bit off. They don't look as menacing. They sort of look a bit softer and a bit more Apple Stormtrooper-y.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I just don't care that much.
But that's ages away, so let's leave that for another time.
I like how many of the effects are practical effects.
I like that too.
Especially that rolling droid is a legitimate rolling droid thing.
That was very cute. No, I agree. I like practical effects a lot. I will be talking more about that later. So,
back to games then.
Back to games.
Back to Mad Max. Mad Max looks good.
I'm
looking forward to it.
Mad Max looks good.
I'm looking forward to that movie tie-in that's not a movie tie-in. It's going to be awesome. Possibly going to be awesome. I mean, it's Avalanche, and they're pretty good. So they know what makes a fun open world game. So it's a bit new for them, considering that they've done the Just Cause Cocky Randy series. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to Just Cause 3 an immense amount. Especially we got the trailers comes out tomorrow. I think by the time this video goes up. I don't know.
By the time this up should be out. Incidentally, by the time this video goes up, we'll be getting close to the end of forgotten. Broken Age should be out. You should check out all of the Broken Age videos on YouTube, which are now up on YouTube. The making of, they're very good.
Yes, I got to catch up on those. I haven't watched them for a little while. The Broken Age got its first score already, though. It's had one review. Has it? Yeah, from Game Something.
Did they like it?
93 out of 100.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, in general, I've again, the cynicalness of now. Like most people, if you're the first reviewer, you probably got paid to do it. I don't think Double Fine's got enough money to bribe reviewers anymore. If they ever did, but
there was actually, let's talk about this. There was a shitty article in some piece of shit magazine that its title was "Why do we keep trusting Tim Schafer?" or "Why do we keep trusting Double Fine?" And the article was basically saying that Double Fine has all of this money and only makes these games, and they're always late. And basically, the summarize was that Double Fine are literally Peter Molyneux.
What?
They literally compared to Peter Molyneux. And I like to tackle this article now.
I think he's the opposite of Peter Molyneux.
Yeah,
he never promises much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the big thing about the Double Fine adventure game is it took longer. Like, it took way longer. But on the other hand, he had a bigger budget. It's like, what did you want that money to go on? Like, either he could hire writers which weren't Tim Schafer to write the game, and then it could be made faster. Or you could give the money and let Tim Schafer write for longer. That was exactly what I wanted to happen. Because that's what he promised, and that's what he gave us. Like, he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah. I see. I think Double Fine have cocked up one thing, which was Space Base. I think they cocked up Space Base, and they put their hands up and went, "Yeah, we cocked up Space Base. Here's a free copy of Hack and Slash and something else. I can't remember what else they gave out." But see, that's their one cock up. But everyone really just seems to fucking hate Tim Schafer now. Like, and I don't know why, because I think he's amazing.
I think Tim Schafer's amazing.
Like although I did have a think, and I have worked out why people do shit on Tim Schafer so much. Because most of the reasons they do screw it, they go, Tim Schafer sucked, is because they go, he's crap with money. And I go, yes, but if he wasn't open, if he wasn't an open company, you wouldn't know he was crap with money. Tim Schafer is very open. Double Fine is very open. And the bloody documentary you talk about is proof of that. That's the whole point of it. It's seeing how the sausage is made. They go, we're very open, and we try to be as open as possible. Every other company in the world is completely locked down.
Yeah.
And they don't say shit. So when they go, we've got a delay, everybody goes, oh, they've delayed the thing again. In the background, they could have fired 40 people and have no money, and they've had to get source funding from elsewhere. You wouldn't have a fucking clue.
For the record, I prefer companies that are shit with money. Because companies who are good with money screw you over to make as much money as possible.
Yes.
Like, that is the rule of money. Like, if you care about money, they are trying to get money out of you and bleed you for every money you can possible. Like, EA are good with money.
Yeah.
They are bad with games.
Yeah.
Because they don't care as much about the games as they do about the money. Tim Schafer cares all about the games and very little about the money.
Yeah.
Which... Oh, like, I mean, I think the adventure game has cost him twice as much as it should have, which means they've pretty much had to put all of their spare pennies into this game.
Yeah.
That means it's a huge love project, and I want them to be crazy, and I think Double Fine is at their best when they're going, this is something I've never seen anything in the market do. Let's make a world around this and a game around this, like Russian stacking dolls, rather than everyone else who says, hey, look, that looks like a trend in video games. Let's make a mod for our game where you have to survive the world and fight zombies.
Yeah.
Because that's apparently what everyone wants.
Yeah. The thing is, because a lot of people also say that he's not made a good name since Psychonauts. Double Fine haven't made a good name since Psychonauts.
Fuck off.
Which is wrong, because there was
Stacking and Costume Quest and
the Sesame Street one that I love. Happy Action Theatre was good fun.
Yes,
I really liked Broken Age. The first part of Broken Age was great. Hack and Slash is great. Massive Chalice, I've not played, but has fantastic reviews on Steam.
From what I've played of, I haven't played enough of Massive Chalice, but from what I've played, it is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Costume Quest 2. They make good games, guys.
Though I don't think they've got paid for that one.
For what one? Costume Quest 2, yeah?
Yeah, I think there was an issue that the Midnight City hadn't actually paid them for it, and that was one of the reasons they were running into so much trouble, was because they haven't got their royalties from it.
Drama's happening.
Yeah, this was in the most recent documentary they were talking about this, which is why I know some of this. Yeah. Which is why you should watch the documentaries, because you see all this stuff.
Is the people who seem to be the most pissed off with Tim Schafer are the people who didn't back the project.
Yeah, because I think up until recently they hadn't seen the documentary.
Yeah,
so
I know. There's always been this
the...
sort of this dislike of Tim Schafer that's been growing, because Tim Schafer goes, we don't have enough money for this. We're going to have to get some money elsewhere. And people go, oh, he stole all our money. Well, no, he's made the game. He's just needed. He made it a bit bigger. Well, he said it'll take 6 months, and he wanted this much, and now he's got way more, and it took longer. Yeah, because he made a different fucking game, you morons. It's quite simple. It's a quite simple concept to grasp. He went, I'm going to make this game for 400,000, and was then given 2.5 million, and went, well, we should spend this on a better game, and then made a different game. The comparison to Pierre Molyneux for his Goddess Kickstarter, promised to reinvent the God game genre, and he made a mobile phone port. Tim Schafer promised to make an old school point and click, and he made an old school point and click.
I'd say, if anything, it was a little bit more new school than old school, but it is a point and click adventure.
It is definitely a point and click adventure. It has
it's definitely by
comedy.
Tim Schafer. Yeah, yes. It's definitely new, and because he also promised us a documentary from the beginning of an idea to the end of the production, and he's delivered that too. Which, again, if you consider hiring a film crew to follow you, and then say, okay, so we expect this to take a year, and then run your game for 3 years, and being able to keep them around for 3 years is actually a whole cost. And there's basically, I think, yes, they're not spending money. I don't think that their money is a smart thing, but I think that's because it's not their primary concern. Their primary concern is making good games, and that's what we care about more than anything else.
Yep. I will always stand by Double Fine. Oh, not all the time. I always go, I'll stand by them. What about Space Babe? Oh, yeah, they fucked it up and I called them out on it. But,
I don't think they're always the best game designers. I think they're the best world makers and the best storytellers in gaming.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes I do play a Double Fine game and go, like even Psychonauts. I don't like Psychonauts, and I'm a big 3D platform.
I will fight you. I will physically
and I'm
fight
a big
you
3D platforming person, but equally, it is a great world to live in. Like,
but
you
see,
can't
I have
fault
the opposite.
characters and
I have
stuff.
the opposite because I don't really like the gameplay of Brutal Legend, but I played through all of Brutal Legend because the world was something I'd never seen before.
And that's exactly the same thing. It's like I have that with so many of their games. It's like, well, even like Costume Quest. Like, if Costume Quest didn't have the charm, it would be a pretty simplistic JRPG that I wouldn't have played for just for the gameplay.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it, but it didn't have anything majorly, but the world was such a weird, stupid, silly one that I had so much fun playing it.
Yeah. That's what Double Fine give us. Because you can have your 50th brown, grey, boring game set in war shooters, but I would much rather play a game set in the world of heavy metal, or set in a Russian stacking dolls, or the alternate history World War where mechs are there. Just weird shit. Just that's what I want. That's what I want, and that's what Double Fine gives me, is weird shit, and they're good for that. And they're not like Peter Molyneux, because Peter Molyneux is a madman who's a snake oil salesman.
Yeah,
There we go.
I agree. And talking about people who are good with money and like games a little bit less, the final topic in games that I have written down is you wanted to talk about Steam Workshop support.
Yeah, well, the Steam Workshop... Actually, one more thing before then.
Okay, then.
I'm only going to briefly mention this, is I found a new wrestling game
Okay.
that I'm struggling with, but I wanted to talk about it. I found a game called Total Extreme Wrestling 2013. This is a game where you play as the wrestling promoter of a small television show or small wrestling thing, and you have to make it to the big leagues. So it's sort of Football Manager for wrestling.
Okay.
This game has taught me two things. One, anything that I've ever wanted to exist already exists on the internet, and I can buy it, which is amazing. And two, I know nothing about wrestling. It's got so many menus and the shit and the stuff you have to deal with, and they're just going, I don't know any of this. This is the most incredibly complicated thing I've ever seen in my life. How does anybody penetrate this? And then after a few hours, I was getting okay at it, and then one of my guys got injured, and everything went wrong. But yeah, that I learnt by playing it to not put all my eggs in one basket, which is a good thing to learn and earn. But I just thought I'd mention that. It's Total Extreme Wrestling 2013. If you're a fan of wrestling and you always wanted to run your own wrestling thing, or if you, like me, were a fan of the GM mode back in the SmackDown vs. Raw games that was very small, this is definitely going to be something. It's because it opens up different windows, it's really hard to record, but I will have a crack at getting a video on it. But I've really got to put at least another 7,000 hours into it before I actually know what the fuck I'm playing at. Like, because you can change the name of everything and all the guys, and you book every single show. You have to book all the house shows, all the dark matches, everything. The advertisements, everything. Like, you have TV schedules, you run your pay-per-views, everything. It's daunting as fuck.
I'd love to make some wrestling jokes here, but I know virtually nothing.
You know virtually nothing. Yeah, the wrestling's on tomorrow night. The Extreme Rules. By the time you're watching this, it was last night, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, there'll be a podcast going up probably also today, because I have my Going In Raw podcast with Stephen Larson. Yeah, there you go.
We'll see how things go.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's talk about Valve.
So, Valve has decided to charge for mods. Is that right?
Yes. On a specific game for now, which is Skyrim, they're going to do it on a game-by-game basis. They're going to ask the developers and let people charge money for their mods. This is the worst thing Valve have done, and they have done some bad stuff. It's not the absolute worst thing, but this is crippling to the mod community. It's absolutely vicious to the mod community.
It sounds... I know it sounds crazy to some people, but I agree. I think this is bad for modders because, I mean, you mentioned it all pretty well in your soups.
Yes,
that
soup video.
That basically your first problem is that as soon as money's involved, people care, and then... And you see this so often with Kickstarters as well, where someone's decided to kickstart something that's to do with Harry Potter, and suddenly they're doing fine, and then suddenly Warner Brothers says, "Oh, you made money on that," and you're like, "No, we covered costs. It was a fan production. We didn't do anything other than cover costs." And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds a bit like earning money. We'll take 40%," and you're like, "Oh, but now I can't do any."
Well, they're taking fucking 75%.
Well,
which is,
yeah, this is the other one, yeah.
That's shitty. That, however way you slice it. So you've got a game that you need to have. Right, so this is the split, because Bethesda get a cut for Skyrim, because they built Skyrim. But we've already paid for Skyrim. We've given them their money. So they've already got money, now they're taking another slice of pie. Valve, who are supplying the mods, for some reason want whatever percentage they're taking this. I don't know what the split is. And then just 25% goes to the guy who did the actual fucking work. Which is super shitty. Like, and also, a paywall is just a rubbish thing, because that just puts everybody off. And you're going to just put people off. Having a donation button would have kept everything free, but also let you donate to certain mods, which would have been a great thing. But the real shit pile in this is that... Oh, and I've seen it. I can link you to hundreds of these fucking things. Of people have taken mods from other modding places that maybe haven't been updated for a while, or maybe are just particularly popular, and have put them on here and said, for sale. And now Steam and Valve have to go through all these and make sure they're legitimate, and they're not going to check everywhere. If the images are different and if they change all the names and stuff, they're not going to find the fucking things. It's Valve. Valve have no support in this sort of thing. They want to be hands-off. They've always said, we want to be hands-off. That's why they let so much absolute wank onto the Steam page. And now they really have to be super hands-on to let this go?
Yeah.
To make this actually work? Because otherwise they're going to be sued to shit. But they already say, oh, if it's... Because they give you a 24-hour refund of Steam credit, so you don't even get real money back if the mod doesn't work in 24 hours. But if the person changes the mod after that 24 hours and it doesn't work, then you have to ask the modder. They are completely hands-off. It's just a shitty money grab, and I don't even know what the fuck they're playing anymore.
Yeah, normally I'm actually on the opposite side of your argument against Steam. Because whereas I know that you feel that Steam should sort of be more rigorous in its... what it allows and doesn't allow. Because I'm coming from the free speech world, where I am terrified of there being sort of everyone buys from Steam, and Steam saying, oh yes, and we've decided only male leads are allowed to come out as games or whatever.
Yeah, but you are right that Valve still do this. We've had 2 occasions recently where Valve have taken a game down. They took down Hatred just because it existed for some reason, until Gabe Newell actually had to step in and put it back up himself. Because that game is about, what? Shooting people. Well, isn't every other game about shooting people? Oh, this is shooting people and you just want to shoot people. Oh, because if you're shooting people and it's a war, it's much better. And then they took down the Paranormal Activity because the developer, after being screwed over, said he was going to kill Gabe Newell. And they took that down.
See, this is
that's back as well now, though.
See, those are the things that I dislike, and therefore, for me, to have a thing that automatically goes through and stops people from being able to put up games is more of a concern to me than them letting through shit, so long as there's a way of filtering through the shit. Yeah. But I do understand that you're coming from a more practical, right now, people are losing money much more than game developers aren't getting their games out. So I do kind of agree that I see where you're coming from. However, when it comes to the modding, I honestly don't think this is a good idea at all. Like, I can't see any of this helping anyone.
Well, it's split modders already. Like, if you go to something like Skyrim modding subreddit, it's an absolute clusterfuck over there now. Because they had a really tight-knit community, and Valve snuck in, spoke to, I think it was 17 people, and got their mods and made them for sale, and now has just ripped the heart out of this community, and they don't know who to trust, because now people go, oh, my next version is going to be a paid version, and all this sort of bullshit. And it's just hurt them. I mean, there's 75,000 people who've signed a petition so far.
And modding's all supposed to be about, being able to help each other out, whereas now, as soon as money's involved, do you help someone out for free, or are you charging them? And normally it's all done for goodwill, because goodwill translates into jobs down the line, because modders exist, and then either they're just doing it for fun, or the modders who do a good job get to become workers at game companies. Like, if you want to have a really good resume going into a video game company, it's much better to have, I created this very successful mod, than I created I have a video game degree on your CV. Like, that is hands down what you want. It's like the guy who worked at
because remember, this is Valve, who Team Fortress 2 was a mod. Counter-Strike was a mod. Dota 2 was a mod.
I was about to say Dota, yeah.
Yeah, that's their 3 most popular games. Plus, I mean, they're not paying anyone until they've earned $100, which means that there's a sword here on sale for like 40p or whatever, which means that person has to sell 800 swords before they see a penny. And they're probably not, because you go, oh, that's a sword. Like, and the thing is, right, if you make a modification to a game, then it's a mod. And that's fine. But if you make a modification to a mod, how much do you have to modify a mod before it becomes another mod? And then you can sell it and not have to give any money to the other thing. Because we've already had this issue. There was a fishing mod that was one of the paid for ones that's now already gone, and the guy's taken it down because it used an idle animation from another person's mod, only in a small section, but it used somebody else's mod, and that person went, "Oh, I need some of that money because you've based that mod off of my mod." And these are the ones that Valve actually sort out. This is the one that Valve went and sorted out, and this is the one that's already had to go because there's massive issues with it. So it's, unless Valve actually go through everything, which means it'll be so slow it's not even entirely worth bothering for it, or, I mean, they do allow a pay what you want sort of system for it. I will say they added pay what you want, but they have a base minimum for it. How about you make all mods pay what you want, but have everything at $0? So you can get it for free, or if you like it, you go, oh, have 10 quid, have £2, whatever.
Yeah, and particularly for mods, I think that you should try them out and then work out if you like them.
Yeah.
Because
work
mods,
out if they're actually going to work.
Because
remember,
mods
if you buy
are
this,
at the height of, there's a really good chance this isn't going to work.
Oh, absolutely. And there's conflicts and everything. So you may, all your mods may work, you may buy another one, and that one just doesn't work with one of the other ones you've already got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, a lot of this is just kind of shit. And then you have to say, what's the value of a mod? Because now it's just more microtransactions and DLC. That's all it is. I mean, they've got this stuff like, there's like stuff like Wet and Cold, which was a really, really popular mod, which you had to be, you know, it added a wet if you were wet or you were cold, and you had to deal with that sort of shit as you played the game. Doesn't add a huge amount, but adds that, and they're selling that for, I think, £4 or £5. Is that a £4 or £5 upgrade for my game? And if somebody else makes another mod that does it in an entirely different way, but also adds roughly the same thing, is that now infringing? Do you have copyright on that idea for that mod?
Intellectual property copyright has always been a pain.
Yeah, but this is now intellectual property right, as I'm now going to call it, apparently, across like little user guys, not big companies. This is now down to the people.
This is why everything should be free.
Well, you see, free with the idea of donations, and Valve can take 10% of the donations to run their downloads, because they're kind of small little mods, aren't they? No mods are going to be colossal. Which is, donations work fine. Like, we're trying to budge ourselves onto donations. I mean, because that's the thing, is people go, oh, you have to be completely happy with this, because that's what you get. I'm like, no, I don't charge for my videos. I don't say, this is a Saturday video, this will cost you $150, this is just an FW, I'll take 50p for that. There's no paywall. I'm not putting up a paywall anywhere to get any access to these videos, and I just think, this is non-essential stuff. Like, YouTube videos and mods are non-essentials. I don't think anybody really wants to pay for them, but if you find one you really like, and you want to make sure that person makes more, a donation goes a long way. Yeah. So I think the internet's currency will become more donation, but I think this is just the worst way of doing it. Just having the pay us money. Well, that's not donation. That is old school.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up because we have spent far, far too long ranting this podcast. And we still got quite a fair bit to go. Yeah. Okay, I want to jump onto board games. I'm going to drop one of my news items because it just wasn't interesting enough. A game that I don't like has done something I really like. So a game I don't like is Cards Against Humanity. Yes. It's pretty famous and popular, but basically it's you draw a card and it says, here's a question, and then you draw a collection of cards and you get to decide which one of those is going to be your answer. Yeah, it's like the superhero one that I was playing. Yeah. The superhero one. I really like that one. I think the superhero one is fun though, because you then have to argue it out, whereas this is just here's a joke set up, and here are some punchlines, and let's see which punchline worked better. That's just a random joke generator. That's not really a game. But they have released a new Science Pack expansion pack, which is quite small, but all of their profits are going towards funding a scholarship to helping female in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics bursary or something to help people do those sorts of things, which I really liked and isn't something you see much. It's something I think that we should see more in video games when you have a successful game, to have a piece of DLC and all profits go to a charity for a piece of DLC, especially if it's something small. In the way that we kind of do with Comic Relief, where we say, let's do an episode for Comic Relief and all the profits go towards Comic Relief stuff. So I kind of like that, and particularly them being a board game means that it costs a lot to do that sort of thing. So I really wanted to give them a shout out for doing something very decent. So even though I'm not a huge fan of the game, if you are a Cards Against Humanity, that seems like something you should help support.
I hear a lot of good stuff about them, the people who run it, that they're good people.
Oh, I know nothing about the people who run it, so...
I think they've done charity stuff. They do a fair large amount of charity stuff.
Well, that's good.
Were they the ones who did the bullshit in a box, or whatever it was?
I have no idea.
They did for a charity thing where they sold people bullshit in a box, and they were like, no, this is actually just filled with bullshit, and they sold thousands and thousands of these boxes because people thought there may be a secret, even though there wasn't. It was just bullshit in a box.
Fair enough.
That's a real thing.
Okay, on a happy surprise.
Yay!
I'm moving on to TV now.
Okay. I have a thing to talk about TV. I just remembered. It's slightly off.
Okay,
it's a
then.
Story that I heard, and I would like to talk about. I don't have to do that yet, but just remind me that.
Okay then. So I wanted to talk about the new Thunderbirds TV show on ITV.
Oh, good. Mine slightly ties in. There's a new Thunderbirds TV show.
There's a new Thunderbirds TV show, and so as a
Thunderbirds Are Go! I saw the trailer.
Thunderbirds Are Go, and so it's CGI, and so obviously I kind of went in just watching it so I could rip it to pieces.
Yeah.
And then I found out it's not all CGI.
Uh-huh.
So they've got rid of the puppets and the Thunderbirds.
Uh-huh.
And everything else is real models filmed in Australia by the guys who did Lord of the Rings. And so if you can actually go onto all of the sets, and they're proper miniature sets, and they've just puppeteer things, so like chairs move and doors open and close automatically, and then they fill in the CGI people doing it. It's actually really rather fun. I mean, admittedly, it slightly jars having the CGI and the real stuff, but at the same time, the puppets never felt believable anyway, so I kind of don't mind losing the puppets and keeping all of that real stuff. So it's well worth checking out, especially if you like behind-the-scenes stuff. They did a really nice behind-the-scenes video called something. I think it's like it was a documentary like Reggie Meets the Thunderbirds or something. But the whole thing is sort of that it's real and it's all made out of models and stuff. And some of the spaceships that aren't the actual Thunderbirds are sort of actually made out of, you know, washing machines and anything that they can put there, and vacuum cleaner parts, and then other bits are just all CGI, and you end up with an episode which is mostly CGI, and you're like, But the advantage is that you then get to see people doing backflips off of models and stuff, and you're like, well, yeah, you could never do that with a puppet, and I see why you wanted to do that for the young'uns. But yeah, it's all actual models, and I love good models, and I was so ready to rip this to pieces for just being CGI, and the fact that they kept mostly models, which is probably how I would have done it myself, because I know that the puppets was such a limitation, whereas the models just gave it so much life. I think the only big difference that I would have done is I'd have tried to keep the Thunderbirds themselves as models rather than CGI.
Yeah. For the people who are wondering why we care about models so much, you know how Jurassic Park's graphics look really good? Still? Yeah, that's why. Because they actually built the T-Rex.
I think I think models always look better than CGI.
Yeah.
Especially, I think we can do it a lot better now, because I think that you can get a mixture of one of the problems with old school, like if you watch old Doctor Who, when they had models, it looks like a model.
Yeah.
But the thing is that now that you can do things like green screen all of the windows in a model car so that you actually can then put a person driving inside it and you can see a real person inside the model, and we can do that fairly seamlessly now, that you can actually make everything look gorgeous. But nearly all of my favourite films are model based, because like even things like Moulin Rouge is all model based, and Fifth Element is nearly all models. Models just look amazing, and they do actually make sense. I think there's a healthy blend of making sort of seamless CGI, using the seamlessness of CGI to cut green screen footage and models all together to make really nice, vibrant and realistic settings, with sort of only using CGI for simple things like fake shadows, because obviously your people won't have real shadows after the green screen. And then just little things like that I think that, yeah, it's a really nice blend. Obviously, Thunderbirds being a TV show can't, and a British TV show at that, can't afford to do the job perfectly. But I definitely think that's something that films should be looking into doing more of. And yeah, well worth having a look at that. So
yeah,
that is the Thunderbirds.
I have news similar. It's Puppet news.
Go for it.
Or more specifically, Muppet news. ABC has just started filming a new Muppets pilot.
I remember this, and it didn't go on my list, so I'm glad you mentioned that. That's correct.
They're filming a new Muppets pilot that is written by the guy who co-wrote The Big Bang Theory, and is aimed at a more adult audience.
Well, yeah, it's the Big Bang Theory part that kind of scares me.
Yeah, you see, I actually had to look into this because I was like, okay, the more adult audience thing is fine, because they had such a hack thing of what they actually said. They said it's going to be for kids of all ages and stuff like that. It's basically, it's how the original Muppets were. So it's going to be the children can watch it, but it's going to have some adult jokes sprinkled in there, which is what the Muppets have always really done, apart from the new Disney Muppets, where they really weren't like that. But I had a look at Bill Prady, who's the guy who's writing it, and I was like, I don't really want a guy who used to run Big Bang Theory to do it. He used to write for Jim Henson Studios.
Oh, that's nice.
He wrote Jim Henson's memorial special. He was the writer on Fraggle Rock. And he did the Muppet Ride at Disney World, which is one of the funniest Muppet things ever, apparently.
Well,
so he knows the Muppets. And he loves the Muppets. And I was like, oh, that feels better.
That does feel a lot better. I'm a lot more happy with that.
Yeah, so, because it's the other one, it's Chuck Lorre, who does stuff like 2.5 Men and stuff, and brings that level of shittiness to Big Bang Theory. This is the guy who has actually worked with the Muppets before. So, yeah. The other thing people are pissing at is it's going to be a mockumentary style. So, sort of a bit office-y with that thing. I'm like, yeah, but the Muppets always was.
I was about to say, the Muppets always was, yeah.
We've updated that to be the Ricky Gervais office sort of thing now. So that's the same as it's always been. It was always a behind-the-scenes... It was always a show about Kermit the Frog trying to put on a show. And that's exactly what this new show is. They're trying to put on a new television show. Yeah. No, I think that works well. Also, there's... FX are doing a very nice mockumentary at the moment. Ooh. The Comedians with Josh Gad and Billy Crystal. Ooh. Trying to put together a sketch comedy show, and it just being horrifically wrong, but in a quite interesting way. Mm-hmm. So that's worth checking out. I have more Muppet news. More Muppet news? I found out a story. Well, it's Sesame Street, but I found out... You know when we joke about this is the darkest timeline? Yeah. I actually found out what the key moment in the history of Earth. It was. I found the hinge that goes into the darkest timeline. Okay. I found out what it is. Okay, so the guy who plays Big Bird, yes, has always played Big Bird. He's stopped recently, years. But yes, he also plays Oscar the Grouch. Yes, he's done that since 1969. Yeah. He's 81 years old. Yeah. Big Bird is so tall because it's his right hand up high. So he's fucking fit as a fiddle. Whatever he is. 81 years old. He was invited by NASA to get stuck on a plane stuck on a jet and going to space, a mission in orbit.
Oh, fantastic.
They wanted Big Bird to be in orbit to get kids into space travel. But this is where the parallel universe happened. In our universe, NASA couldn't actually fit Big Bird in, and they had feathers and things that could come off and damage things. So they ended up just taking a teacher. And if you remember the NASA launch, which had a teacher in 1986...
No.
Which was, Challenger, the one that exploded on takeoff. There is a parallel universe where Big Bird dies in a fireball in space.
I've actually backed a documentary about him on Kickstarter, which is just about handing out their rewards. So I will be watching a nice video on him. There is an
I hope they mentioned that, because I saw that today. I was like, that is the hinge point. Because like so many kids tuned in, like it was a real big thing, and like because there was a teacher going up there, and it ended up being sort of oh shit. But imagine if Big Bird died.
That would have been horrible. Though Sesame Street has dealt with characters dying before.
Yeah, but like, how would you even fucking deal with that one?
Yeah, no, I agree. That would be pretty awful. One of the best pieces of puppeteering I've seen this guy do. There is a. So they played the Sydney Opera House, and it was a big band, and then Sesame Street characters would come out, and so Oscar the Grouch comes out, but you can't get Oscar the Grouch to come out because he doesn't exist beyond a certain point.
Yes.
So they had a giant Muppet who was sort of, Big Bird size, who was walking around holding a trash can, and then Oscar the Grouch came out of it, and the Muppet was wearing roller skates. Okay, now remember that what's actually happening is a guy sitting inside a giant Muppet suit on roller skates while playing the Sydney Opera House as Oscar the Grouch, with his hands are sort of stuck as Oscar's hands and operating Oscar, and he's roller skating right next to a giant drop into an orchestral pit.
Yeah.
And the guy's 70 at the time or so, and you're there going, that doesn't seem as impressive until you think about what it's going on there.
Yeah.
And then that is probably the most impressive piece of puppeteering ever. And it wasn't even like he roller skated on and stayed there. He spent the whole time zipping backwards and forwards on the stage, and you're like, that is some serious skills.
Yep.
So yeah, basically, the Muppets and Sesame Street are all wonderful.
Yes, but they nearly died in space.
Yes, that would have been horrible.
That would have hinged into the dark timeline.
Now, but part of me now feels that it shouldn't have been Big Bird, and it should have been Miss Piggy that went up. So we could have had pigs in space!
Oh, that would have been a depressing episode of Sesame Street.
But she's not in Sesame Street.
Yeah, but they would have had to mentioned it slightly.
But I agree that, it would, yeah. And then Frank Oz would have died, and there'd have been no Yoda in the sequels.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Sorry. Something I missed from the Thunderbirds information. They got back Parker to play Parker.
Oh, that's nice.
Because Parker's voice is one of those iconic things. Yeah. So they just got back the original actor.
That's good.
But yes, I wanted to now move on to a whole load of talks about Netflix.
Netflix?
Yeah.
I've heard of that. Have we done movie news already? I forgot to mention something in the
this is still TV news. I haven't really put any special movie news aside, okay, so feel free to do that now if you want.
Good. Well, we had some trailers, didn't we? Apart from the Star Wars one. I was going to mention it when we did the Star Wars one, but I forgot.
Okay.
There was the Jurassic World trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Jurassic World, they've turned a movie that was always man doesn't have control over nature, which was always the theme, into dinosaur serial killer. That's because there's the evil dinosaur. I don't care. I don't know how they've cocked that up so much. They've made an evil dinosaur. There's now a bad guy. There's a bad dinosaur. That doesn't make sense to my poor little brain. And it's all lots of Chris Pratt and, yeah.
Does he run around with a raccoon who talks and has guns?
If only. Or some Lego figures. It would have been lovely. I like Chris Pratt, but in this, it's just... Every single line of the trailer was just a cliche that we've heard a billion times. And you're like, yeah, this was written by Spielberg back in the 40s, and they just found it. They just found it, and they're just going to put it in the cinemas. The other trailer we had was Batman versus... that's all I have to say on that one.
There was a reason we didn't mention that. It looked just so...
It's one of the things I've been most requested to talk about. I just... Right. The Man of Steel movie, I think, is one of the biggest piles of shit. Like, because I don't know much about Superman, and that movie assumed I had a degree in Superman, and I just... Everything was shit, and nothing made sense, and it was horrible. It was a piss-poor excuse for a movie, and I absolutely can't stand it. And Batman I find incredibly dull. I know you're a fan of Batman. Batman is only ever as good as his villain.
This is also true. Yes.
Batman is only... Which is why the second Batman movie is the best one. You're not allowed to argue that. I know you distinctly think the first one is. But,
I massively disagree, and you're not even talking about the second as in the one with Catwoman. You're talking about the second as in the second of...
I'm not going as back as Tim Burton. I'm not going in that sort of area, but the Dark Knight stuff is what I'm talking about. I like the second one of those because I thought the Joker was a fan bad guy. The third one was kind of dull because of Bane. But Batman's villain in this one is Superman.
Yeah.
Who is the boringest human being, which means that Batman's going to be boring.
Plus they've got no jokes now as well, which is...
Yeah, because they're trying to distance themselves from Marvel. You know, what Marvel being all successful and stuff. They want to distance themselves from that.
You know, I was going to segue into this somewhere else, but, you know, I'll take it now. No, I think that you Superman only really works when he's being camp and over the top, because quite frankly, he's camp and over the top. It's like, you're Superman, you can do pretty much everything. So I kind of struggle with Superman being anything other than a two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
So you need to plaster him with silliness to make it fun.
Yeah.
Batman is a very dark character. I've never felt that Batman and Superman should ever be in the same universe, because they are the polar opposites. It's like, here's a guy who has virtually no superpowers, and here's a person who has all of them. Yeah. It always felt like, unless we were playing a game where Superman had the intelligence of a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
No, not even a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. And Batman actually had to talk him through everything. Only then would it be a reasonable series. Like, yeah. So I kind of have that, and then just this. I agree that Batman needs a good villain to work well, but I mean, a lot for me is like Batman's. Yeah, it's trying to deal with the humanity of things, and trying to be gadgety, and just going too far into the. But Batman kind of struggles if he goes too gadgety.
Yeah. Like,
whereas Iron Man sort of took the too gadgety and then pushed it and then managed to survive with living with superheroes and gods. Mm-hmm. I don't think that Batman works when he goes too far, because he stops being Batman.
Yeah.
Batman's supposed to be about hiding in the shadows and sort of trying to get maximum effect for minimum effort. And
in this trailer, he's got a big power suit on.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they're going, okay, like, why doesn't Superman just fly away, like, grab a plane and crash into him? Or just squish him with a mountain, or pick him up and throw him into lava? And you go, kryptonite, okay, the plane one then.
And secondly, it looks nowhere near as cool as the Hulkbuster was in the Avengers Age of Ultron.
You've seen that now, haven't you?
I have. I will give the review of the Avengers now, very briefly. Yeah. So you have to remember, my view of the first Avengers movie was it was a crap plot, it was crap for characters, it was crap action, and it was an amazing comedy piece.
Yes.
Okay, my review of this is it's a pretty good comedy piece. It's not quite as great, but you're definitely going to be laughing throughout the movie. But I don't think I'm going to be quoting Age of Ultron as much as I do Avengers, which had such great lines as puny god and that man's playing Gallagher, and I don't think it's got quite that bit, but it's still got quite a few great laughs in it. It is a beautiful movie for character development. Like, every character, and bearing in mind there's an awful lot of characters in it, like nearly every character either has a character defining moment, or a choice that sort of defines them, or one of those things where they have to sort of question who they are and work out where they are. So everyone had really good either development or proving that they had questioning whether or not they wanted to stay where they were. So everyone had really good character development. The plot was massively better. I wouldn't say it's quite up to being a great plot, but fortunately everything else sort of balanced out, and the action's pretty fantastic too.
That's
so
a recommendation
for me,
almost.
it's definitely a recommendation. It's probably sort of somewhere around an 8 or a 9 out of 10. One, everything it's put together. So yeah, it is a very solid across the board film. I will not say anything else. I will say don't check the credits before going to see the movie, because I did, and I slightly spoilt the movie for myself. So I will say try not to do that, or don't think about who the cast is before you appear. But other than that,
is there an
it's an amazing
movie
scene. Okay, there is an after credits scene, which quite frankly you probably can guess what it is, because it's the same after credits scene they had in the Avengers. Which is Thanos is there and goes, "Oh, I'm going to be appearing some other time down the line."
Yeah.
There isn't anything later than that, because like the whole cinema was waiting till the very end. It just says the Avengers will return. I was like, "Where's my shawarma bar?"
Yeah.
So yeah, there is the small
a mid-credits.
There is the mid-credits teaser, but there is nothing right at the end.
Okay, cool.
And that's all I say. I don't want to say anything that will spoil it. It's a good movie. You really should watch it. And I'm about to hate on Marvel later on, so
good.
it's worth me saying that was good.
Good. I think that's all the trailers that came out.
Yep. Okay.
Now it's time. Now it's going to go Netflix. I think it's time to hate on Marvel, because Netflix and Marvel have done a thing recently.
They did Daredevil, and I hated this.
Because you really, really like the original movie. Well, I don't know if it's the original, but
I do like the Ben Affleck movie, and I was saying I didn't like it, and someone was saying, well, this is supposed to be the Batman of this universe, and there was me going, yeah, okay, I do appreciate that. Literally, Ben Affleck has played both of these parts, so clearly some of that is correct, but it was sort of, it felt like DC had decided to make a TV series. Like, there was no jokes in it. And I've heard people sort of, but even Batman has jokes. Batman is good when he has jokes. He doesn't have a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
But he has some jokes.
Yeah, even the super gritty Christopher Nolan ones has jokes in. Like the bit where what's the name vanishes and he turns around and he's like, oh, so that's what that feels like.
Exactly. Or
like that.
They have a lot of jokes about cars, like, what are you going to take? The Batmobile? The Lamborghini? Much more subtle. Or,
because that's Michael Caine and he oozes charisma.
So,
like a charisma oozer.
But they have like so many jokes in all of the films, and that kind of makes it feel a bit more believable. And it didn't have very good action, but I don't really hold that against it, because I honestly can't think of a single action scene in any TV show that I've enjoyed. I don't know. I just don't think TV does action very well for the most part. Maybe cartoons might have an exception, but as far as live action, I can't think of a good action scene. Like, they do TV is brilliant for comedy, brilliant for drama, or it can do those things really well. Like, the best action I can think of is something like Heroes, and that's when it all happened off screen.
Yeah.
And
I think Firefly had some good stuff. Firefly was very smart.
I've only watched half of Firefly because I didn't like it
very
that much.
Clever comedy.
But
clever comedy action. Like, you had bits like you had the big setup where it was like, who's holding a hostage? And then Mal just walks in and shoots the guy in the face. It was satisfying action. It was like, why don't you always do these things?
Yeah, but that's not sort of action in the way that, like, if I had to describe great action sequences, I would go to The Matrix or Scott Pilgrim or The Fifth Element, and there are so many movies I could list off of movies where I could literally just watch that action sequence and it would satisfy me. Even, in fact, I don't like the Lord of the Rings movies that much, but I am quite happy just to watch a cut of the action non-stop if you cut out all of the talking, and it's still
the spiders.
and the spiders, and it's a pretty good movie to watch just for action. Whereas there's no TV show where they suddenly get into a fight scene and I go, oh, thank God they're doing this. This is gripping. Like, even like, I think it's budget. It's the, even something like, Game of Thrones has had one battle scene that I enjoyed last season. Like, they had one battle scene in the whole of Game of Thrones, and that's a sort of, the most expensive television around there. And that's the only time I can possibly think of a fight scene I like. But anyway, so...
Boardwalk Empire was very, very good at establishing where all the characters were and when action was going on. It didn't have mayhem action. It had Boardwalk Empire's action, because it was very low-key, it wasn't lots of music and explosions, it was some people having a gunfight, was very well done.
Yeah.
But again, it's low-key, it's not things exploding. It's not supposed to be things exploding.
But I just never really get the same sense of excitement. And possibly some of this is things just like being able to have your own soundtrack, because all action movies have their own soundtrack, and so get to get the pacing and the music right and get that sort of clever development and the time just to script it, because you have to do TV so much that so much of it is kind of you can't storyboard every single piece and work out where it all goes. And if you've only got a day to film your one action scene as opposed to a week or 2 weeks in the case of sort of big action pieces. So yeah, it had crap action because it wasn't fun for me, but I don't actually hold that against it because I can't think of something that has good action. So it's like one of those, yeah, you weren't very good by comparison to movies, but you're a TV show. You had a tenth of the budget, so I'm not going to hold that against you. But it didn't have anything else going for it. Like, it fell into that trap that you often get where people confuse being dark with being deep. Mm-hmm. Like, it was dark, but it didn't actually go deep with it. And bearing in mind, this is also part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mm-hmm. Like, this Daredevil is going to appear in one of the Avenger movies down the line. It's been confirmed. Like, so this is canon, and it was 13-hour-long episode with almost, if absolutely no jokes. Mm-hmm. And, like, I was just getting there, and it was like, oh, they went into the Kingpin's backstory. So the Kingpin is the bad guy for the whole series, which is sort of supposed to be this mastermind behind all of it. And, like, the backstory was literally textbook, how do you write a bad guy? And they spent a whole hour dedicated to his backstory. Like, I'm guessing if I asked you, there is a big, giant bad guy thug, what's his backstory? I reckon there's a good chance you will guess this.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Go for it.
He used to be a drill sergeant in the Korean War. Then he was frozen by a team of attacking Yetis who had mistaken them for other Yetis. Am I close?
No, it's the second one. It was the... I'm going to tell you this because it's so goddamn predictable that I don't classify it as a spoiler. Okay? Mm-hmm. Here is the big backstory behind the Kingpin. His dad was not a very nice person, hit his mum, and then he killed his dad to protect his mum.
No way.
No. Yeah.
No way. That was my third guess after the Ladybird Wrangler.
Like,
yes.
You know when you're just there going, seriously, you went with that? Like, I was actually more interested in the Powers, which is the Sony TV series, which is very good as well. Very good as opposed to Daredevil. And they doing darker, but doing darker properly. And, like, they had a character who did this storyline in sort of 2 minutes, which was his dad beating on his mum, but he's a teleporter, and he teleported away and just never did anything about it. And I actually found that more interesting than the people who spent an hour going through the predictable storyline. And it was just one of those... And every episode was just one of those, and another one of those, oh, you're trying to be dark, but you're not actually putting any character or any love into it. The bad guy was trying to do this, I'm being a good guy, really, and you're like, no, you're not. And then, I honestly would have preferred 13 episodes of Matt Murdock being a lawyer, which is his day job, and having to fight for the people of Hell's Kitchen, where most of Hell's Kitchen was destroyed by the Battle of New York, arguing in court as to whether or not that was an act of God because Thor was involved, like, against the insurance companies. Like, 13 episodes of that would have been way more interesting and way more gritty than anything that they put onto that screen. Like, because like they had 2 lines, which was, "This didn't get crashed by the incident." Oh, is that what we're calling it? And that is the only reference it has to the fact that they're in New York and aliens and things were there. No point did anyone say, seriously, Iron Man's hanging around, as is Thor, as is Captain America. Why don't you just leave this to them?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, there's no clever grand plan. Like, you'd have thought if you spent 13 episodes all trying to discover the bad guy and going against him, he'd have some clever grand plan. But no, there wasn't. He thinks he's the good guy, despite the fact that he makes his money through drugs and slave trade. Like, literally, he's dealing in slave trade, but he's trying to protect the city for good people. How the fuck did you think you were ever the good guy? And there's no sort of... And then, even worse than that, there are people who think that he's... Like, lots of his cronies are following him because they believe in his vision. I'm like, what fucking vision? You've told us, like, his vision seems to be get all of the power and then he fixes it. Like, it seems like that was the closest he got to a grand plan was, oh, fuck everything up, become all-powerful, and then I can sort of, fix it from the inside. But, like, I can't see how everyone was convinced that he was going to do that, because there was no evidence of it anywhere. There was no... It was just basically a whole series of me watching it going, I have to watch this because I've been told I have to by Marvel to be up to date with the cinematic universe.
Yep.
Like, this... I felt a lot like when I watched the first 13 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I said it would be pretty hard pushed to make a worth 13 episodes in the Marvel universe. They took that as a challenge. And this was the result that they kind of shat in front of me. Mm-hmm. I actually went through a small depression spiral because of watching it. It was so bad and depressing, and it's now been picked up for another series, which it wasn't supposed to, which is terrible. Well, it was supposed to be kind of an origin story for Daredevil, so that you could then have... They're supposed to be doing these 4 origin stories and then the Defenders, which is a collection of Daredevil and the other three groups. And it's just got me... at least they've got a cast for the next one, which is coming out, who is... I think it's Jessica Jones or something. A person I have never heard of and have no idea of. But they actually have... Like, David Tennant is playing a lead character in that.
Ooh.
And it's supposed to be about a girl who's doing detective work about superheroes, and that actually sounds like it might be watchable if they keep it the right level of dark and don't make it... If they make it interesting with the odd few jokes, sort of Batman dark, and the odd amount of special superpowers... Sort of Heroes level. Heroes was a good level for how dark should you go in a superhero TV show. I think they got it. It was dark. You got into characters. It wasn't happy, slappy, kapow TV. But equally, they still kept a joke or two every episode. They had a bit of comic relief. They had a bit of... And they also left a lot of the action off-screen and implied, which meant that they didn't go, let's have dark and gritty people bleeding all of the time. It was kind of like, let's make it count when it's needed. Mm-hmm. So I think following that pattern would be good. So I think they might get better in the other things as they become more superpowery, but yeah, that just really dragged me down.
Aww.
And it's a pity because Netflix has some good things coming up as well. They recently released the trailer for the Dragon Riders, which I'm looking forward to a lot, which is the How to Train Your Dragon series. This is part of their the 3rd season of their TV show, which takes place... This is still taking place before the 2nd movie. So, yeah, no spoilers, but people who were around before then will be in here, and people who were around after that movie will not be in it. But that looks like it could be fun. And Baz Luhrmann's got his own TV show. I'm a huge Baz Luhrmann fan. He did Moulin Rouge, and he does lots of musical stuff. And he's doing a show based around the birth of hip-hop, rap, and R&B, and disco, and graffiti in sort of downtown New York. It's not downtown, it's the low-class part, but I don't know. Some part of New York in which the money is not as readily, and sort of dealing with the youth at the time that those were being created, which probably wouldn't have interested me apart from it's Baz Luhrmann, and he generally does a really good job when it comes to musicals, so I'm happy to watch that. That looks interesting. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with Netflix is I don't like how they stream their TV. Because they put all of the episodes in one go, and it kind of kills the TV show. Because, I mean, when me and Dan get together, I'm talking to the viewers now. When me and Dan get together, sort of about once a week to talk about what's been going on in the computer games, we also get to say, hey, did you watch the last Community episode? And talk about it, because it comes out once a week. And I talk about other TV shows with my sister, and occasionally we can say, don't talk about the most recent episode because I haven't seen that. When they release all 13 episodes together, you can't talk to anyone about it because you've either watched all of it or you haven't. There's no sort of, I've watched one episode. I appreciate that you don't necessarily have to wait a week to release an online series. I would be happy with one episode a day for 2 weeks. I think that would be a good compromise, because then you could wait 2 weeks and binge watch it all if that's how you wanted to watch it. Which is how I do want to watch some shows, like particularly shows like Daredevil, where it's like, I need to get through this and get out the other end. But then shows that I want to be excited about and talk about, every day I can come back to the office or wherever I go and go, hey, are you up to date with this? We can talk about what's going on now and what do we think is going to happen in the next episode. And I appreciate them saying, oh, you can watch it at your own rate, but I want to have that pacing, because it means I get to have a community, and I feel like the Netflix shows just kind of kill their community off by doing this one episode. The whole season in one go. And I really do feel like one episode a day would be a much better pacing, because then you could do.
I always feel you lose a sense of time if you just binge watch a TV series.
Oh, this is also true too.
Like, if it's supposed to be taking place over a year and it's 13 episodes, and you release them all in one go, and I watch them all in one day, it's like, oh, that was a year? That feels a bit off. It's like TV isn't yet written for the Netflix binge watch. But
sometimes the opposite can happen. I mean, I think Breaking Bad takes place over a year and is 5 seasons, so it took 5 years for people to watch it, but in game time was a year.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes happens, so I don't have huge problems with it. I know Coupling sort of did it for the most part, and then had a hiccup in between the 3rd and 4th season where they changed their mind over how their timing was, because it actually took place over a year and a half for the first 3 seasons, and then they decided it was 4 years, which seemed a bit strange for someone to have been pregnant for quite so long, and they're pregnant not to have developed, but and to have calculated the 1.5 years, you have to have been as anal as me and worked out where time couldn't have passed. So you had to have worked to get those numbers. So I don't think it was as bad as my favourite TV show, Studio 60, where someone gets grains in a day because their final day is several episodes long, and they realise that someone needs to give birth. They gain about 3 months of pregnancy in sort of a few hours. Just because they said, oh crap, if they're actually born at that point, the kid will die. We need them to have a chance of survival. So yeah, there are things like that which when you binge watch and you're like, this one day, which was 5 episodes long, sort of when you were watching it over 5 weeks, you don't notice discrepancies like that. So I do, but I think trying to make TV to be watched one a day is actually a good pacing for TV, because it doesn't mean that you then have to... If you allow too much for one episode a week and one season a year, sometimes you lose track of what the characters themselves have gone through, particularly if like you're doing a storyline that leads on a bit too much. Often you can find yourself underplaying the year, so it's like that season was 5 months instead of 12 months, and so you then have to decide what actually happened, and whether or not you're just going to have a huge gap in between over the summer period, which several shows do, and some of them make it work for them, like Community gets to say they just went on summer holiday and we never see them on holiday. So you can make that work into your series fine. But I think that, making things for one a day has a good pacing, and I think that Netflix should go that way, just because otherwise their shows happen. It's like, here's a new season of this show, and it's like, oh, cool, I watched that, and then someone says, I haven't watched it yet, so we can't talk about it, and then they have watched it, and then we forget to talk about it, and we never talk about that TV show because it happened for one day, a year, and that's not really worthy of talking. It's pretty much making it movie-wise, only it doesn't have the same rewatchability that movies do, because setting aside a whole nother day to watch something as opposed to a few hours to watch something a second time. And generally, the awesomeness per second for TV shows is lower. Less so with comedies. Like, I feel TV is better for comedy than films are.
Yeah, but that's true, because there's very few comedy films that I actually like.
Yeah.
There are films with comedy bits, but actually straight comedies, especially American straight comedies, I just can't stand the damn things.
Yeah. Oh, I recently, because yesterday Tom Scar did what are my top 10 movies, I actually went down and wrote my top 20 movies out. Ooh. And there were 2, maybe 3 comedies on the list. As straight comedies, there were loads of rom-coms and loads of action adventures with comedy in them. Yeah. But like the only 2 that I said they are straight comedies was Mean Girls and Monty Python and Quest for the Holy Grail. Yeah. Well, that, to be perfectly honest, is just an elongated TV. And quite frankly, like that was more on as an honourable mention, which means the only straight comedy is written by a woman and performed by women. So we clearly know that men aren't funny. Is what that proves. The only other one that was possibly in there was Scott Pilgrim, which, although technically claims it's a romance, there is no romance in that movie. I actually find it lets me down on a romantic note, and that almost works against it. However, it is an amazing action movie as well, and I pretty much watch that as much for the comedy as I do for the beautiful visuals. So I kind of don't count that as a straight comedy. Whereas I don't watch, either Life of... I was about to say Life of Brian, I meant Holy Grail, or Mean Girls, going, oh, that's a beautifully designed shot. I watch it because they're both amazingly funny. And Mean Girls is wonderful. I walked past a person the other day, and they had a Mean Girls t-shirt on. And I was so... I wanted to turn to them and go, that t-shirt's so fetch. But I forgot what the word fetch was. I was going, I know the word, but I can't get it in my head. And they'd already passed.
Them for about a week until you worked out.
I was tempted, but I didn't.
Okay.
I was also tempted. There was I can't think of the word fetch, and then I was going, I could go for that's the ugliest effing t-shirt I've ever seen.
Probably best not.
I realised that is a reference that they might not be at the top of their head. That they might not understand that one as quickly, and had the danger involved. Of that one was too high, so I decided not to go for that.
Good plan.
But yeah, so there are good movies out there, but put jokes in things. I actually find not putting jokes in things to be unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is just me and my family and my friends, but everyone I know tells jokes.
Yeah.
And, even worse than that, particularly when you say, oh, but this is supposed to be dark and gritty, do you know where the worst, the stupidest comedy is. It's on battlefronts of war zones. That's where you get into most frat boy humor. Like, that is where you get the stupidest jokes. And the other places, it's like like you even have it's morbid humor and
dark humor.
There's
humor, yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but there is that kind of when you're about to die there is a type of humor that it's gone, but like it's well established that people are about to die like do tell jokes. Like it is a coping mechanism. It's a very real coping mechanism, and actually I feel that by leaving it out, like not telling jokes in a series, particularly when it's edited, where I consider you to be only showing the best bits, so the best jokes should make it through.
Yeah.
Like, I generally start believing it's less believable. Like, a dark TV show where it's sort of blood and gore and no one's telling jokes feels way less believable to me than a superhero going, "Oh my god, what the hell's going on?" and telling jokes. Like, that feels more believable to me than... Yeah. So, I don't think... Don't go with dark and gritty without having depth. I think that depth and darkness are very different, and I think that they can go together, but they don't necessarily go together. So stop just making dark things and pretending they're deep. Have depth, like the Avengers had. The Avengers has depth. Well, sometimes the Batman movies.
Well, no, they were.
Nolan can sometimes put depth into his pieces. His universe normally doesn't have enough depth, though, to support the depth that he's trying to dig to. He normally digs to the point where lava stops filling up the hole that you've just dug. And you're like, okay, that was a deep cave, but it's now filled with lava because that level did not go as deep as you were attempting to go.
And then it cements itself over it, and we call that a plot hole.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what happens.
That's what happens with a lot of Nolan's movies.
What's next on the topic wheel of stuff?
Okay, we have one final topic, and I feel like this is miles longer than a normal podcast.
Yes.
You wanted to talk about the general election in the UK.
Yep, fuck them all. Right, so that was the... I had something I was going to say, but right now it's like, I made people register to vote, and lots of people registered to vote.
That's good. I think it was important to register to vote. I think even if you don't want to vote, turn up and spoil your ballot in person.
Yep.
There is still a good chance that might be what I do. I'm very torn. Like, politically, I feel like the Green Party is most like me.
Yeah.
But there's also, I don't live in Brighton, which is the only place where it looks like they're really going to get in. If you can look at the Green Party and where they're likely to get in, if you are one of the cusp areas, I strongly recommend voting for Green. If you're not an area where they stand a chance, which is most of the UK, unfortunately, then it's a wasted vote, and you may as well... And then there's other things like, you get the politicians at this time, and especially after last time, because last time we had a general election, the Lib Dems were making a lot of very liberal promises. They were and then they broke every one of those promises, and there was no repercussion. So we've kind of got to the point where it's like, I get to a point. It's like, did I watch the politicians' debate? It's like, no, because I did last time. And I made an opinion last time based on that, and they decided to do the very opposite of what they said they were going to do.
See, I had the opposite thing. I watched the leaders' debates again, because I'm a glutton for punishment. And Miliband, who is one of the three that I like, was such an arse.
Yeah.
Right, Labour, the point of Labour is the people that we vote in because we're sick of the Tories. That is their purpose. Nobody votes for Labour because they believe in Labour. We vote for Labour to get rid of the Tories. That's true. The only reason we vote for the Tories is to get rid of Labour, right? This is the
okay.
thing. And then there's the little parties that actually have the politics that people can actually genuinely believe in. But I don't have... where I end up voting doesn't actually have even like a Green person, and there's no SNP there who I like. Because seriously, having a Scottish woman in charge, no one would fuck with us.
I think
Who declares war on a Scottish woman? No one who wants to live
she is going to probably be Vice Prime Minister.
I would love that.
Well...
But Labour, fucking Miliband, flat out said that he wasn't going to let her in. He's going to go, no, we're not doing a deal with the SNP ever.
Well, he's lying.
I hope so.
Well, there's...
But the thing is, because he said it now, if he goes back on it, he's going to look like a pathetic knob. And his problem is that everybody thinks he's a pathetic knob.
But I think his problem isn't that everyone thinks he's a pathetic knob. I think his problem is that he's a pathetic knob.
Yeah.
I think it's compounded by sort of stupid things like people saying he can't even eat a sandwich properly. But I think...
Thanks, have I got news for you?
Yeah, but I think that is less of an issue than the fact that, like, Labour is supposed to be pro-union, and, like, the problem we have is that Labour used to be the left-wing party, and then we had a choice between a left-wing party and a right-wing party. And then Labour got fed up of losing, so became an almost right-wing party, by which I mean... They're centre-right, as opposed to right-right.
The Liberal Democrats have now
plugged
their way into being a right-wing party as well.
Last election, Lib Dems sold themselves as being a centre party, which, by comparison to the other two, was a Liberal party.
Yeah.
And now they have basically become Conservatives Part 2.
Yes.
So they are now nothing. So we kind of live in a country where it's like, it doesn't really matter who you vote for.
I don't live in that country.
Oh, all right, I do.
So I get a vote.
I am just getting more and more tempted to leave the country.
It's a good idea. Like, seriously, some of the stuff that could happen in this election is going to... Because you're there going, right, Cameron's fucked everything up, I can't wait to get rid of him, and then you look at the polls, and you're like, how the fuck is this an even 34% for both of them?
Well, the thing is that neither Conservatives or Labour are going to win. That it's impossible.
No one's going to win, yeah. Nobody's going to win.
And the SNP are by miles going to be the third biggest party. Like, they've got more than double what Lib Dem are going to get.
Good.
I think they will have more votes this year round than Lib Dem did last year.
Yeah.
Which was the biggest that Lib Dem had ever been. So the SNP basically gets to decide who wins. Now, my understanding is they're more liberal than they are Conservatives.
Yes. And they've ruled out working with the Tories. But Labour's ruled out working with them.
So it's one of those ones where either Labour has to say it's the only way for them to win is to join together.
Yeah.
Because basically, so long as Labour and the SNP don't work with the Tories cannot get a majority, even with the UKIP votes and the Liberal Democrats. There's no way they can get those seats. Basically, the three are too powerful that neither one can win without the other, without teaming up.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, it really does have to be Labour and SNP, and Ed Miliband is gonna be the idiot that he is.
Yes. I mean, some of the stuff that he was they're announcing at the moment, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna reduce student loans to 6,000." I'm like, "Great! You were the tough spots to raise it to 3,000 in the first place. You started this. You're not the hero. It's still worse. It's still horrible. Like, that means now that there was a 4-year window when people were fucked. One generation of people just completely fucked over with their education. Thanks. We found 8 billion down the back of the sofa and we're going to give it to the NHS, is what the Tories said. Oh, and they all want to fucking renew Trident. 100 billion. 100 billion for nuclear weapons. Here's a great idea, right? Spend £8, buy some really big tubes of cardboard, paint them to look like nuclear weapons, take photographs standing near them, and for absolutely no money whatsoever, you can pretend you've got nuclear weapons. You don't need the nuclear weapons. They don't need to actually be nuclear weapons. You just need people to think you have them. No one actually needs nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Just pretend you have them. There you go. I should be in government. Vote me.
But basically, I hate the Tories. I generally hate Labour almost as much. I think I hate Labour a little bit more.
New Labour. Tony Blair.
Sorry, New Labour. Yeah, I hate New Labour almost as much because they're the ones who are supposed to be on my side. Yeah. Like, they're not as bad as the Conservatives, but they also happen to be the ones who are supposed to be representing sort of my view on politics, and they're not. Like, in any argument that I have with someone who's right wing. They're like, well, yeah, but Labour is like, yeah, don't confuse me with Labour. I'm a mile away from there. Like the best argument they have at the moment of Labour is, well, we're not Conservatives. Like that is their number one slogan at the moment. There's even Martin Friedman's did a whole video which says basically they're not the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And that's their only standing point. And unfortunately, much as not being the Conservatives is a huge victory, it's not quite enough for me to want to... I made this comment in a tweet that it's voting for who should run your country should not feel like a Kobayashi Maru test. And it does.
Yes, yeah.
The test in Star Trek, which is the no-win situation. And it does just feel like it's he's a bad choice, he's a bad choice, he's a bad choice. Like there are no good options. It's just trying to choose the least of the best.
Bit of news just came in. Nick Clegg said he would not join a coalition with the SNP. But like, so if they don't get enough, so because you can bundle up more than two parties to get coalition. You
can, but there's no way that anyone without Labour and to get a coalition government, you need more than 50%, and those three parties are big enough that there's no way that them joining together won't do it. Like I think the electoral maths said.
That's pretty much everyone who's gone, fuck the SNP. I want to vote SNP. If all three of these leaders hate SNP, then SNP are the right choice in this general election. You heard it here first.
Possibly. You watched the leaders' debate. What was the SNP
I didn't watch the leaders' debate. I watched the contestants' debate, whatever they're called. I didn't give a shit about the leaders' debate because that's got Cameron, and I can't stare at his face without my testicles retracting into my body.
Or Ed Miliband, for that matter.
Or Ed Miliband. But Ed Miliband was on this one because this was the people who aren't David Cameron and Nick Clegg, so therefore it was infinitely better.
Oh, okay.
It was the one where Nigel Farage called the audience a bunch of BBC liberals and then got booed, and then the guy who was hosting it, I can't remember his name now, the old guy, went, this was actually picked by the Electoral Commission and are a balanced group of individuals. He's like, blah, blah, blah. Every time, what's great is you watch the polls with UKIP, and every time they talk, they go down. So we're going to vote for you. Stop talking. Oh, well, we hate the Muslims. Stop talking. Well, we hate these people. Stop it. I will vote for you. You said too much.
I loved the UKIP YouTuber interview. Did you see? I think that there was a group of YouTubers got to interview everyone except for David Cameron. And do a talk, and when they were picking at Nick Farage or whatever his name is, I don't dedicate brain space to remembering racists. They were just coming back at him, and they were doing things like, "You said that you're going to remove all sex education." He's like, "Well, maybe someone in my party once said that, but no, I think that's ludicrous." And they're like. It says so on your website. And because they're our generation and our peers, they literally had it on their mobile phones going, look, here it is. Right in his face. And it was just like, yeah, that's what the youth should be doing.
Yeah. The UKIP have said that they're going to take 2/3 off the BBC funding, which will count. They want it to be purely factual, so they're going to get rid of Doctor Who and that sort of thing.
Idiots. That makes them money.
That's what makes... Yeah, they just should be for public services and nothing else.
Secondly, Doctor Who is a public service.
The
world is a worse place without Doctor Who.
Even when I'm not enjoying Doctor Who, I still want it to be going because it's still the best thing on, one of the best things on TV. Even when I'm not enjoying it, I'm like, no, other people, this is great. This should keep going. This should just keep going.
Yeah,
forever. We'll end on this because this is a great story of man of the people, David Cameron. Today he was doing some sort of interview thing because he's a conservative, and he was talking about his favourite football team because he's a man of the people, and he says his favourite football team, West Ham. I love West Ham. They're the best things ever. But every other time he's gone on the record, his favourite football team has been Aston Villa. And it's like, it's just one of those things you're just so fantastic.
Yeah. And clearly Charlton Athletic are the team he should be choosing.
He should be picking no one. He's not allowed to vote. I think he's allowed to vote, actually, yes. I like how he's blamed the area. He went, I just forgot things. I was like, but he might forget important things. Because if he's forgetting what his favourite football team is, then I don't trust him to remember anything. Don't vote for David Cameron because he quite clearly knows nothing.
He did another one where he went onto the Game of Thrones sets and said he wanted more family-friendly TV show, just like Game of Thrones, and described himself as a Game of Thrones fan. And I was like, yeah, you are not a Game of Thrones fan if you think this is family-friendly.
He thinks leaving his kid in a pub is family-friendly. And on that bombshell of an ancient thing that I will never let him forget, we'll end it here after 2 cocking hours of this. Yeah. Stuff.
Thank you for hanging in there, those of you who did.
Yeah, all 3 of you. Thank you.
We'll try and make these more regularly, and maybe if news was just a bit more dispersed, we wouldn't be forced into this situation.
Yep.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you the other side of something.
And ta-ra.
I'm going to go eat a sausage roll. Bye.
Bye.